The man who saved my life never raised his voice, never kicked in a door, never called himself a hero. He just noticed a bandage on my face while I was emptying his trash at 11 p.m., and he refused to pretend he didn't see it. If it were you, would you ask what happened? Or would you look away and mind your own business? My name is Michelle Williams, but most people who really know me call me Rele, and for years, my whole world was bleach bruises and bills. I cleaned offices when the city slept, tried to keep my head down, tried to stretch $11 and change into rent food, and something that looked like a childhood for my little girl Amara. I was with a man named Trevor, who said he loved me, then called me stupid, then called me worthless, then called me in from the kitchen with his fists when the day went wrong. You know how it starts, right? It's never bad at the beginning. It's jokes that hurt a little. Then shoves that don't really count, and then one day, you're standing in the mirror trying to figure out if makeup can cover a handprint. That night, the night everything turned, my ribs were screaming every time I took a step. Trevor had come home in one of his moods. Dinner was not hot enough, or fast enough, or respectful enough, next thing I knew. My back hit the counter. Then his boot hit my side. Then there was this white-hot pain that made everything slow. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, heard the crash called through the door, scared him off just enough for me to crawl up, grab my keys, and get to urgent care. They wrapped my cheek, told me I needed scans for possible fractures, told me the price, and I laughed this stupid broken laugh because I could either afford to know what was broken or keep the lights on. I chose the lights. A few hours later, I put on my janitor uniform and went to work like nothing happened. Bradford Tech Industries at night is a different planet. Long glass hallways, quiet elevators, monitors of sleep city lights bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows, my cart squeaking down the executive floor. That's where he worked, the man whose name was on the building, Vincent Bradford. I knew him the way people like me know people like him through break-room stories and news articles, the genius kid from nothing who built a tech company worth more than my whole neighborhood put together. I had cleaned his office 5 nights a week for 3 years. I'd seen his awards, his family pictures, the late-night coffee cups, the tired jackets on the back of his chair. I'd never expected him to know my name. That's important. Remember that. It was close to 11 p.m. when I rolled my cart up to his door, one hand holding my side, the other pushing the handle. I knocked like I always did, just to be polite. Nobody was ever in there that late. "Come in," he said. My heart dropped. I stepped in anyway, keeping my left cheek angled away from him. He was in his shirt sleeves tie loosened, reading something on his screen. "Sorry, Mr. Bradford. I can come back later." I mumbled. "No, it's fine. Go ahead," he said. And his voice was calm, distracted. The way bosses sound when they're halfway between a meeting and another problem to solve. I went for his trash can, hoping the fluorescent lights wouldn't make the bandage glow. Then he looked up, and everything changed. He went completely still. "Rella, what happened to your face? That stopped me. I was just shocked he knew my name." Then the survival script kicked in. Oh, this. I tripped. Bathroom door caught me. "I'm clumsy," I said, trying for a laugh, hand flying up like I could hide what was already covered. He stood up. Slowly came around the desk, studying me. Not in that creepy way, but like he was putting puzzle pieces together and didn't like the picture. "That's a medical dressing," he said quietly, "and you're guarding your side. How long have you worked here?" 3 years, sir. In 3 years, you've never once come in hurt. You've never missed a shift. Your work is spotless, and I have never seen you like this. So I'm going to ask again. and I need you to really think before you answer. What happened? I tried to brush past him. Said accidents happen. That's when my hand slipped off the cart. It banged against the cabinet. The sound just rang in that big glass office. My body started shaking. My throat closed up and I hated it. I hated that I couldn't hold it together. He took one step closer, not touching me, not blocking the door, just standing there. "Who hurt you?" he asked. 4 words. Simple. Heavy. So let me throw this at you right now. If you were me standing there with your boss, staring at your injuries, rent past due, a violent man waiting at home, would you tell the truth? Or would you lie to protect the person destroying you? I tried to lie. I can't. I whispered. He stayed quiet. Just waited. Something snapped. My boyfriend. I said. Trevor. Once I said his name out loud like that, I couldn't stop. Everything poured out in pieces. The pushing, the slaps that weren't that bad. The first time he choked me, the hand around my wrist that never quite healed right. The neighbors ignoring the noise. The urgent care visits I couldn't pay for my daughter staying with my sister thinking mommy's just working extra. Shame tastes like metal in your mouth when you say it, you know what I mean. Vincent didn't give me the hallmark line. Didn't go, "I'm so sorry you went through that," like people do when they want to feel kind, without actually doing anything. He listened, jaw tight, eyes sharper by the second. Then he reached for his jacket. "Get your things," he said. "We're going to the hospital." I panicked. I can't leave. I'll get fired. I need this job. I have a kid. My insurance doesn't cover. He cut in, still calm. "You're not getting fired. I'm not asking about your insurance. I am telling you, I'm not letting you walk out of here like that and pretend I didn't see it. You don't understand," I said. And my voice cracked. If he finds out I told anyone, he'll kill me. Vincent looked me straight in the eye and said, "When I was 10, my mother's boyfriend killed her. Because nobody stepped in. I'm not repeating that story." Pattern interrupt. My brain stopped. He held out his hand. "Please, Rele, let me help you." I said yes. Quiet. Shaking. But I said it. And that yes flipped my life. The elevator ride down was silent except for him, making one phone call casual, like ordering a car service. But the words stuck with me. "James, it's Vincent. I'm bringing someone in domestic violence situation, possible fractures. I need you to handle it personally. Yes, tonight. Bill me for everything." At Mercy General, Dr. Morrison, head of emergency, met us at the door himself. X-rays, CT scans, exam questions that hurt worse than the injuries. 3 cracked ribs, old fractures in my wrist. Deep bruising. A pattern. They used that word. Pattern. While I was trying not to fall apart in a hospital gown, Vincent was at the nurses' station filling out forms, telling them all costs to my account, like it was just another line item in a budget. The advocate came in, introduced herself. Started talking about safety plans, restraining orders. Shelters. I wanted to run. I had heard all that before. You know, maybe from a flyer in a bathroom or a public service thing at 2 a.m. It felt like information for other people, women who could afford to start over. I kept saying I can't lose my job, I can't be homeless with my child. That's when Vincent stepped back into the room. "You're not losing your job," he said, steady like gravity. "You're not going back to that apartment tonight. I own a furnished unit in a secure building downtown. It's empty. You and your daughter can stay there as long as you need. We'll handle the rest." I stared at him. "Why would you do that for me?" He didn't hesitate. "Because I can. And because no one did it for my mother." It felt unreal, like some story you scroll past and think, okay, sure, that's not how real people act. But there I was at 2 a.m., riding in his car. Again, this time, not back to Trevor's place, but to a high-rise with a doorman and cameras and clean air. The night manager handed me keys like I belonged there. The apartment had 2 bedrooms, fresh sheets, a kitchen already stocked. I almost cried over a box of cereal. Mr. Bradford, I can't accept this, I told him, voice shaking. Michelle, he said, and it was the first time he called me that I'm not asking you to earn it. I'm asking you to use it. You and your daughter need a safe place. That's it. No strings, no weirdness. Then he asked for my sister's number, called Tamara. Himself explained where I was asked if Amara could be ready to come over in the morning so we could all be together. Now, if you're watching this thinking, all right, what's his angle? Hold that thought. Seriously, keep it in your back pocket, because I asked myself the same thing more than once. Morning came sunlight in a place that didn't smell like beer and anger. My ribs were burning, but for the first time in a long time, the silence wasn't scary. It was peaceful. Then a text. Good morning, this is Vincent. How are you feeling? Let me know when you're ready for movers. Sharon Rodriguez will call about the restraining order at 10. I stared at the screen, thinking, who lives like this? Where help shows up before you even know how to ask. We picked up Amara from Tamara's, and my sister hugged me so tight I saw stars. But I didn't care. She looked at Vincent like he'd dropped from the sky. Thank you, she said. You have no idea. He just nodded, uncomfortable with the praise. Back at the apartment, Amara stepped in, eyes wide. Mama, is this ours? For now, baby, I told her we're safe here. She spotted Vincent, and her little brow crinkled. Are you an angel? She asked. He actually laughed, this soft, embarrassed laugh. Not even close, he said. Just a guy trying to help. Yeah, that happened. The first few days were a blur of paperwork, police reports, lawyer calls, and my body trying to heal. Sharon pushed the emergency restraining order through. Dr. Chen started unpacking my brain in therapy. Every sore muscle, every panic spike in the grocery store, every instinct to text Trevor. I'm sorry when I hadn't done anything wrong. She called it what it was. Trauma. Conditioning. Survival mode. At work, instead of a pink slip, I got an email asking me to come in to meet with HR and Vincent when I felt able. I thought he was going to tell me they'd have to replace me on the night shift. He did something different. Your doctor says you can't be doing physical labor for a while, he said. We've had an opening for facilities manager. Office hours. Supervising staff. Better pay. You know this building better than anyone. I want you to take it. I almost laughed. I'm a janitor. I said I don't know how to be a manager. You've been managing problems alone at 3 a.m. for 3 years, he said. We train people for less. The job is yours if you want it. So here's your first quiet twist. This man didn't just save me from a beating. He made sure I didn't have to crawl back to that life because of money. That's the part people don't talk about when they say, why didn't she just leave? Life shifted. I went from mopping floors in the dark to holding keys, running schedules, ordering supplies, talking to executives without staring at my shoes. People who used to walk past me started saying, Ms. Williams. Some of them recognized me from the night shift and said, it's about time. Amara started at a good school near the apartment on a scholarship from a company fund I didn't even know existed. She brought home paintings and spelling tests instead of stories about sirens. On paper, it looked like one of those overnight success stories. In reality, it was 1,000 tiny steps, 1,000 moments, where I wanted to run back to what I knew, 1,000 times. I nearly convinced myself I didn't deserve any of it. And through all of it, Vincent stayed. Steady. Not hovering, not acting like he owned my choices, just checking in. Sometimes it was, "How's the new schedule working with Amara's school?" Sometimes, "Make sure you're using all your benefits, including therapy." Once in a while, he'd bring coffee and ask if I was sleeping better. That was it. No creepy vibes, no guilt trips, no "remember what I did for you." If you've ever had someone help you and then twist it around to control you, you know what a difference that is. Months later, one afternoon in his office, he finally told me the rest of his story. How his mom's boyfriend used to slam doors, throw things, tell her she was nothing. How the neighbors heard but didn't call. How the last time the cops came, it was too late. How he'd sat in that station at 10 years old with blood on his sneakers and heard a grown man say, "If someone had called earlier." And that sentence stuck in his spine. "I built this company," he said quietly, "because I never wanted to be powerless again. Money doesn't fix everything, but it gives you leverage. So when I see what I saw in your face that night, I can't pretend it's not my business." I didn't know what to say. I just said, "Thank you," and I meant it in 100 different ways. All right, quick breather. If you're still with me, stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. A year in, I was in a place I never imagined. Good job. Safe home. My kid thriving. Therapy actually helping. Trevor legally blocked from coming near us. I had started to feel like maybe the other shoe wasn't going to drop for once. Then came the fundraiser. Every year, Vincent sponsored this big event for a local domestic violence shelter. Fancy hotel. Ballroom, small mountains of desserts, people in suits writing checks, emotional speeches. This time, he invited me as his guest. Not as staff, as someone whose story he said reminded him why they did this. I almost said no. I wasn't sure I wanted to sit in a room full of strangers, while the word domestic violence bounced around like background music. But Diane, his sister who'd basically adopted me into her loud, loving family, insisted. "You belong there," she said. "You are exactly why this matters." So I went. Green dress. Diane helped me pick out nerves in my stomach, Amara staying with Tamara for the night. The ballroom was all golden light and white tablecloths. People kept coming up to Vincent to shake his hand. "Say, love what you're doing with the shelter man." I sat at his table feeling like an imposter, like any moment someone would ask me to grab a mop. Then he went on stage and told the room about his mom. No tech jargon, no branding, just this raw, steady truth about a woman no one rescued in time. People were crying into their napkins. I was one of them. He came back to the table, took my hand under the cloth for half a second. A small human gesture, nothing flashy. And that's exactly when my phone lit up. Blocked number. I should have let it ring out. I didn't, I answered. "Hello, Static." Then his voice like poison I thought I'd flushed. "You think you're better than me now, huh? In your fancy dress with your rich boyfriend." My heart stopped. "Trevor." "You're not allowed to call me," I said. "You're mine," he slurred. "You'll always be mine." Vincent had been watching my face. He reached over, took the phone gently. "Trevor," he said, calm, controlled, "this is being recorded. You are violating a restraining order." Trevor started screaming, asking who the hell he thought he was. "Someone who is not afraid of you," Vincent answered. "If you contact her again, you will go back to jail. This is your only warning." Then he hung up, flagged the number, emailed the recording to Sharon, called the non-emergency line, documented every second. That was the twist. The fear was still real. My hands were still shaking under the table, but this time, I wasn't documenting alone. It wasn't just my word yelling into a void. The system, my support, my boss, my friend, my almost something, they all moved with me. Within days, Trevor was picked up again for multiple violations and held. Real consequences. From there, things didn't suddenly become perfect, but they did become solid. At work, my numbers spoke loud enough that the board took notice. A few months later, they sat me down and offered me a promotion. Director of Operations. Bigger responsibilities. Bigger salary. Seat at the table. I couldn't even say yes. At first, I just sat there, with tears filling my eyes, thinking about all those nights I'd cleaned under that same table. Outside of work, me and Vincent, we were something. Slow, careful. We didn't rush it. He never pushed. I was waiting for the catch, the moment he'd say, "Look at everything I've done for you. Don't you owe me this?" It never came. Instead, there were Sunday dinners at Diane's, where Amara played with his nieces, and his aunt sent me home with leftovers, like I'd always been family. There were late evenings where we sat in his office after everyone left, talking about movies we liked. Childhood foods. We missed how both of us hated mushrooms, for no good reason. There were nights he walked me and Amara to our door and said, "Text me when you're locked in, so I know you're safe." And it didn't feel controlling. It felt like care. One night after a long day, I blurted it out. "Why me?" I asked him. "You could have hired a security team, given some money to a shelter, checked the good person box. Why go this far for me and my kid?" He sighed, rubbed the back of his neck. "Because the night I saw that bandage, it was like someone pushed play on an old tape," he said. "I saw my mother's face. I saw neighbors looking away. And I also saw someone who worked her ass off, who took care of everyone and got nothing back. Somewhere between that night and now, it stopped being about guilt and started being about you. And I don't know how to separate those things. I just know I don't regret a single step." I didn't have some poetic reply. I just said, "I care about you too, and that terrifies me." He nodded. "We go as slow as you need. If all I ever am is the guy who helped you get safe, that's enough." Little by little, it stopped being just that. I started taking night classes in business management with company tuition support. And yeah, him quietly covering the rest. I'd argue with him. Tell him it was too much, and he'd say, "It's an investment, really. This company needs people who actually know what it feels like to clean the floors." He'd show up to Amara's school play, cheering louder than anyone, when she walked on stage as tree number 3. He'd spend Saturday mornings assembling a cheap bookshelf I bought on sale, swearing softly when the screws didn't fit. And it was the most normal, beautiful thing I'd ever seen. 2 years after he first saw that bandage, after court dates, counseling promotions, report cards, birthdays, and 100 small moments of trust earned, he asked me to marry him. No flash mob, no helicopter, just our living room. Amara pretending to color at the table while very obviously listening. "Michelle Williams," he said on one knee, holding a simple, beautiful ring. "I don't want to be your savior. I want to be your partner. You saved yourself the night you said yes to help. I just walked beside you. Will you let me keep doing that for the rest of our lives?" I said yes with my whole chest. Amara squealed, ran over, and said, "So I can call you Dad now, right?" And this grown man almost cried. Yeah, that happened too. We built a life. Real, boring, lovely stuff. Shared calendars, laundry, inside jokes, arguments about who left the cabinet open. I finished my degree, moved deeper into leadership at the company, joined the board of that shelter that once felt like something for other women. Trevor faded into a cautionary tale, with a file in a system that finally worked the way it should have from the start. What? And then came the part that still makes my hands shake when I talk about it. The shelter director called and said, "Relly, this year, instead of Vincent telling your story, we'd like you to tell your own." I thought about it for weeks. Sharing details of your worst days in a room full of strangers is like peeling your skin back. But I kept remembering the women sitting silently at their desks, the neighbors hearing crashes through thin walls, the friends who don't want to get involved. So I agreed. At the fundraiser in that same ballroom, Vincent introduced me not as the janitor he once helped, not as some charity case, but as our director of operations, my wife and one of the bravest women I know. I took the mic. I told them about the bandage, the urgent care bill I couldn't pay, the way violence sneaks in one excuse at a time, the boss who asked a real question and then backed it up with real action, the lawyers' advocates, therapists, security guards, school principals, sisters, nieces, a little girl with a unicorn backpack, and a stubborn woman, learning to believe she deserved all of it. I also told them this: I am not here to tell you every survivor needs a millionaire to show up. I'm here to tell you it is terrifying that sometimes that's what it takes, and that is on all of us. So let me ask you now, honestly, do you think that's fair? That safety can come down to who notices you, who has money, who decides to care? Or do we owe each other more than that? As co-workers, neighbors, family, strangers on the other side of thin walls. That's where I want to leave you. Not with a fairy tale, even though I did get my happy ending, but with something messier. Yes, I married the man who helped me get out. Yes, we have a good life. Yes, my daughter is safe and loud and funny and calls him Dad. And they gang up on me about my terrible singing. It's beautiful. It's real. It's mine. But wrapped around that happy ending is a hard question about the world we live in. If you saw what Vincent saw that night, a woman limping a bandage that doesn't match the story a coworker suddenly quiet, would you risk an uncomfortable conversation? Would you offer real help? Would you make it your business in the right way? Or would you tell yourself, it's not my place, and hope someone else does something? Tell me in the comments. Argue with me. Tell me if you think he crossed a line by getting involved that deeply with an employee, or if more people in power should do exactly what he did, minus the creepy savior complex we all worry about. Tell me if you've been the one needing help, or the one who stepped in, or the one who stayed silent and still thinks about it at 2 a.m. Your story might be the thing someone else hears right before they decide to leave, or to make that call, or to ask that question. If this hit you, don't just scroll away. Share this video. Drop your thoughts, your anger, your hope, your own experience. If you feel safe, because someone out there is exactly where I was standing in a quiet hallway, holding pain together with tape, praying nobody notices. Be the person who notices. Be the person who asks. You never know. That one decision might change everything.